It is time for episode 6 of Proof of Ergo. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm James Kever, and this show will talk to developers from both GuapSwap and Azorus about their innovative projects and what's ahead for each. We'll also talk about Ergo GraphQL, a query language that's a lot like the Ergo Blockchain Explorer API, but better. Why do we need it, and what's it going to do? Well, we'll get to the bottom of all of that. And finally, we'll talk about fascinating work out of ErgoHack on random number generation. What team's behind this and what are the implications, all coming up on this 6th episode of Proof of Ergo. But first, a quick reminder, we're on all the major podcast platforms, and if you're watching on YouTube, we would very much appreciate you hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and letting us know your thoughts in the comments section. We also have a Twitter account at Proof of Ergo, and we would love for you to follow us on that platform as well. And for those of you already following us on Twitter, the other day we sent out a request for questions for our upcoming GuapSwap and Azorus interviews with the promise of giving out some prizes. Well, we were able to get all the questions in, and I'm happy to report Crimson Cryptos wins a Rocket Boy NFT, one of 15 variations, from sponsors of the show, Ergopad, and Red African Power will receive $75 worth of PoE, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization Toolkit governance token, from the marketing lead of PoE. Now, we'll reach out to both of you on Twitter. Thank you to the sponsors, and thanks to the winners. And again, follow us on Twitter, as the next big giveaway could be to you. Ask 10 people what DeFi is, and you'll likely get 10 unique and different answers. That's because DeFi, or decentralized finance, has taken on many different forms and mechanisms in a decentralized way, so you can use your crypto to make more crypto. Our next guest's project solves a unique problem Ergo miners faced when trying to participate in DeFi swaps. His name is Augie, and the project is called GuapSwap. Augie, thank you so much for calling in today.
Thanks for having me, sir. Glad to be here.
First, start by explaining to me, what is GuapSwap?
So GuapSwap is a decentralized miner profit swapper. Ergo miners can get paid out in any token that's available on ErgoDex.
Very cool. So I could mine and earn Ergopad with GuapSwaps.
Ergo games, Neta, whatever you want. If it's available on ErgoDex, you can get your payout in it.
Very cool. Now, how'd you come up with the idea in the first place?
I come from Denmark, which is a very strange tax jurisdiction where every swap is taxed as new income. So as a miner here, every time I do a swap, they basically take half of whatever I'm swapping to. So I've been using different profit swapping tools on Ethereum, on Mineable, 2Miners, Circ Pool to get paid out in the tokens that I want. But there are a number of problems there. They use centralized exchanges. Swaps can take, or payouts can take an extra few hours. Especially some of them are using some. You're definitely not getting your swaps at the market prices. And when I started to learn about Ergo, I saw that something was probably able to be done there. And around November, I started pitching the idea on the Ergo Discord and on the GitBlock Discord. And the answer was pretty much, it's a good idea, but you're going to have to figure it out yourself. And luckily, I got rolled into the DECO education program, took the layman's course, and found the other guys who helped develop it, and participated in ErgoHack 3. And we were hoping to get our MVP, or minimum viable product, out during ErgoHack, but we just missed it. Few days after ErgoHack, we had the first working product, and now it's actually working.
So how does it work? I mean, if you can talk about that.
Well, everything is open source. You can go look at it on GitHub. That was very important for us because like I said, one of the things that I thought was not so cool about the other things is that there's a lack of transparency there. So firstly, we wanted to make it open source.
Now, aren't you worried, though, that someone might rip off your project or clone it?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, sure, but the Ergo ethos is about transparency. And for me, I was in this to make something that I could use, so I didn't get taxed into oblivion, right? So we're not really thinking about that. We're providing, basically like the core devs, we're providing tooling for the community and how people choose to use it. Obviously, we have a working product that people can use, so we hope that people just use that because it works really well. And how it works basically is that it works through the smart contracts on Ergo. You generate a proxy contract which receives your miner payout, and then the GuapSwap thing that you run on your computer, as soon as it notices that the box of the proxy contract is full, it'll kind of convert it into a box that the ErgoDex swap bots can understand. Boop, and then they pick it up and then flow it out into your wallet.
So it's all smart contract based?
Yes.
Very cool. What does the roadmap for GuapSwap look like? What's ahead?
Ooh, lots. There are a number of things that we want to do. One idea we have been kicking around is tokenization, which is obviously a big deal here in crypto. But also, so tokenization, we have talked about making a graphical user interface, so a GUI, because some people are not super comfortable with using a command line interface. Mm-hmm. We're working on multi-token swaps, so you will not only be able to get paid out in one native token. You could basically mine Erg and get paid out a third in SigUSD, a third in Neta, a third in Ergopad or Padea or whatever you want. We're looking into also some use cases for wallet integration. And one thing, and this is for me and the team, this is something that we really want to see happen, but we're waiting for ErgoDex to release documentation on it. But if you've been following the community news on ErgoDex lately, they seem to be very close to bridging to Cardano, and the whole Rosen bridge technology will seemingly allow us to bridge to other networks as well. So when ErgoDex starts bridging to other networks, you would basically be able to mine any token that's connected to ErgoDex. So we would be able to mine ADA when the Cardano bridge opens up. So this is pretty cool. And obviously as it looks now, it's technically possible, but we're lacking the documentation from the ErgoDex devs to actually make it happen. But technically, if you can swap on ErgoDex, you should be able to use GuapSwap to mine Cardano. We'll see when they release more, but that's a big thing we're working on.
That just blows my mind to mine Cardano. Wow, that's really cool. Wasn't expecting that. Sidebar question, Augie, as a miner, what are your thoughts on EIP 27?
Obviously, when you're talking about decentralization and changing the monetary policy of a crypto, it raises some questions, and I think for a lot of people, it makes their hair stand on end. Some people will have the question like, so basically EIP 27 is going to change the emission schedule. So will be the block reward will lessen, but it will increase the longevity of the chain keeping miners incentivized to secure the chain for, I can't remember, 27 and a half extra years instead of just 6. In the short term, I think it's somewhat problematic, right? Because profitability is what drives miners to actually secure the network. And it's a reduction of, as I remember, around 20 ERG per block. And that means that it will be less profitable in the short run. But I think as a miner, I also mine myself, that the longevity of the chain is more important than the short-term profitability of it. So I think it's a good thing. Would, a devil's advocate, some people would say like, hey, 6 years, wasn't that probably a bit of an aggressive emission schedule? But what's cool about it is that miners got together, we voted, and a super majority, which is, think about it, how crazy is that? That more than 90% of the community voted for this proposal. Like, just think about how long it took for Bitcoin to activate Taproot. But obviously, like, Bitcoin is a lot larger network. There are a lot more players and whatnot. But I think it's cool, and it's a show that the Ergo community is very strong. People are not too concerned about what happens in the short term, and they can see the long-term potential of a move like this. So since the start, I was definitely for. So I think it's a good thing, although maybe some would say a bit controversial, but it was put to a vote, and the community decided.
Well, it will be very telling when Ethereum goes to proof of stake, and where all those Ethereum miners are going to go, where that hash rate is all going to go. I'm very interested to see.
I mean, if we can touch on that for a second, there are, if you're following the mining YouTubes right now, they are talking about the different potentials for. We don't think that any one algorithm is going to take over, but Firo just made some questionable decisions about how they are going to reward their security providers. So it's what it is basically down to now, as I see it. It's between Ethereum Classic, Flux, and Ergo, and Ergo has a lot going for it, since it's very energy efficient, it's ASIC resistant, and the technology just keeps getting better. That being said, there are a lot of interesting things going on Flux, with the whole web hosting, decentralized service thing going on. And of course, Ethereum Classic has basically a lot of the big farms from ETH. They will just move all their stuff over to ETC for an easy transition. But I think as time goes on, Ergo is definitely an awesome alternative. And that basically ties into also one of the reasons why I wanted to do GuapSwap, because I want Ergo to be an attractive alternative to miners. So anything I can do to make it's attractive as possible, that's something I want to do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's what I love about Ergo, and a lot of the developers that I talk to. It's not just a motivation to seek profit. It's also a motivation to like benefit, the whole network and the whole ecosystem. Now, earlier we went to Twitter to see what questions our audience might have, and we had a few come in. First, there are lots of blockchains out there. Why develop on Ergo?
Well, basically, I had to start somewhere. I'm a physical therapist by trade, but I've always wanted to become a programmer. That's why I got involved in Deco, first as a student. Now I've actually taught a semester of the layman's course. And the principles are very simple to understand once you get in it. Understanding the basic concepts about Ergo script and boxes and AppKit and how it works. It's simple. So once you can start to explain the concepts of an idea, it's relatively easy for a developer to understand where to go with it next. And it has a very large toolkit to work with. A lot of it's growing ecosystem of developers that are a lot like the core devs. Every Wednesday, you can go to the core dev thing and see what everybody else is working on, and you can ask questions. So the community is still like very open and very helpful. So yeah, Ergo is close to my heart. And with like I don't consider myself to be a smart guy. So the fact that there are a lot of people to ask and friendly people that want to help, that definitely made that decision very easy.
Next, could GuapSwap make dual asset mining accessible on other pools outside of GetBlock?
Yes. So basically, GuapSwap is pool agnostic. The only thing the smart contract cares about is getting funded. So you could, I mean, if you wanted, you could do it in your wallet, but obviously, why would you do it from your wallet? Because then you could just interact with the Ergo text, right? But the proxy contract doesn't care where the payout comes from. It could come from any mining pool.
Very cool. Augie with GuapSwap, thank you very much for calling in today. I'd love to catch up in a few months for an update on the project.
Yeah, no worries. More than welcome, sir.
Next, we have some exciting news out of this last ErgoHack having to do with random number generation. A secure random number generator is a feature that's necessary for various types of smart contracts being designed for the Ergo blockchain. One example is Night Owl Casino, who needed a way to randomly generate roulette spins. Random numbers are complicated because when using code to generate random numbers, it's impossible to make them truly random. If someone could just gather enough previous results, they could use an algorithm to predict future numbers. Now, to get around this, rings use entropy. That's unpredictable input from a source other people can't observe. In Night Owl's case, they use the ErgEth oracle and the ETH block header, providing the random entropy that they need for the random number generator. This works because you place your bet, then the ring waits for the next ETH block header. Currently, ETH blocks take about 15 seconds each, so the wait isn't long. Using this unknowable random data, it hashes a random number and transcribes it to the Ergo blockchain. Without knowing what the next ETH block header will be, there's no way to deconstruct the random number using an algorithm. This can be used in other smart contracts too. One example would be an NFT sales contract where you send funds and expect to receive a unique NFT from a pool of various common and uncommon attributes. This could also work for trading card games as well. When you open the card packs, you're returned randomly selected tokens. So it's real exciting to see this innovation happening on the Ergo blockchain, and with it being open source, many other developers and projects are going to be able to take advantage of the work the Night Owl team is doing. Have you ever given any thought to the inroads a blockchain needs to make for mass adoption to occur? The infrastructure that needs to be built so that commercial companies can successfully conduct profitable business on the blockchain? Well, our next guest certainly has. He's the project lead for Azorus, a UTXO blockchain intelligence platform. Chris, also known as Curbside Profit. Chris, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, James. Happy to be here.
All right, great. So first, explain to me like I'm five here, what exactly is a UTXO blockchain intelligence platform?
Yeah, that's a good first question. Let me just sidestep for a second, right? Before I actually answer the question. I think there are a few key problems to look at. The first one is the granularity of Explorer views, right? They're very low level. It's hard to find out at a macro level how the ecosystem is doing. It gets the job done, right? But it's not quite there yet. The second one is to get any type of blockchain data. It requires some technical overhead. So someone needs to like run a node, build up the personal infrastructure to get it up and running. And then the third one is potentially like a lack of desire for adoption. So what we're focused specifically on is data scientists, machine learning experts, right, blockchain analysts. How do you get them to move to the decentralized Web3 space? And so our goal is with Azorus is we want to help with that migration, build something for them that they're familiar with to get them to that phase. And so back to answering your question, Azorus is a service to query, analyze, visualize, and communicate all blockchain data, as well as decentralized app data from a single location.
All right, it sounds fascinating, but maybe you can make it a little bit more real for me. What kind of insights can Azorus highlight from the blockchain that companies will want to see and even pay for?
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, it's up to them, right? What we're trying to do is we provide the tooling for the next generation of blockchain analysts or data scientists. But if I were to take it to a lower level, it could be something as simple as a rich list of like top wallets. Everyone always wants to know that for the different tokens, or it could be a little bit more complex. So for example, recently I had a chat with Crypto Guaca. He leads the Ergo Store's NFT project. And he needed a snapshot of all holders of an NFT using a specific mint address because he forgot to log each NFT token ID. And so what we did was we fired up Azorus and provided that output list for him. But it could even get a little bit more complicated, right? It can help with like algo trading or statistical modeling. But there are a lot of questions that we don't even know that need to be answered yet. But we want to provide the tools for them.
Very cool. Now, is Azorus a single blockchain project? Meaning, is it only looking at Ergo? Because there are other UTXO blockchains out there. Could it work on, say, Bitcoin or Cardano?
I love this question. So no, not a single chain, but yes, you can look at Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, and many more, right? Our phase one is to solidify our foundations. Phase two is to expand that coverage. And the way I see it is it's going to be a multi-chain world, right? And the analogy that I love to use is Azorus will be like the highway, with the different exits and entrances to the highway would be the layer one, layer two blockchains, and the cars and trucks on the road would be the dApps and businesses.
All right. Let's talk about ErgoHack. What was Azorus able to submit?
Yeah, so we were a team of 2 or so, and we only had about like 5 hours a week to work on this, but we were able to submit a very simple prototype. And so the first one is the query page, where you could actually query Ergo blockchain data. You had table results, code editor, but it's missing a lot of information. And so what we plan to do after ErgoHack, well, it's already over. But what we want to do is continue to build it out, right? Building the homepage, dashboards, profiles, even like a marketplace. And so imagine for like the marketplace, someone creates something awesome. You can hook it up to your wallet. It spits out analytics for whatever they want. For example, profit and loss for taxes, or maybe even like custom data for NFT portfolio analysis, and figure out like how do you join the different data sources to diversify your portfolio a bit. All
right. So how is Azorus going to make a profit?
Yeah, so we have multiple revenue streams. We have Web2 subscriptions. We have API usage. We're also looking to diversify into platform fees, custom business services, right? What that means is like if you need analytics help for your business or for your dApps, we'll have a team of analysts available. However, you could also crowdsource that to the community, but we'll also have infrastructure support. And something that we're exploring is like white label licensing as well.
Is there going to be an IDO?
Yes, with Ergopad. The staker round, I believe, is July 2nd. So that's coming up very soon, in 2 to 3 weeks or so.
Awesome. All right, great. So what's the roadmap look like for Azorus?
Yeah, so I think there's 5 steps from here on, right? So the first is IDO. The second one is closed beta, where we at least stabilize our hackathon prototype, because that's going to be the core functionality of the project. If we can't even get that right, then everything else that we build around isn't going to work. The third one is MVP launch, right? After that, Ergo DApp integration. So I think that's where the fun begins, where we can start integrating the backend infrastructure of like ErgoDex, Ergopad, and maybe even like Sky Harbor, I believe they're having their own backend in the future. From there, we're going to start expanding our research to other chains, doing a little bit of outreach, and then continue to make platform improvements.
Very cool, man, that is so exciting. All right, Chris, earlier today we tweeted and asked the audience for some questions, and we had a few come in, and so I'd like to ask you, why Ergo? Why are you developing on Ergo specifically? Because as we have talked about, there are other UTXO blockchains.
Yeah. So I think to build a revolutionary product, two questions or two dimensions need to be addressed. The first one is a technology discussion, right? Everyone talks about like scalability. Everyone talks about like whatever fancy things they have. Everyone's all about like, well, I'm in it for the tech, right? That's most of the space. That's what we talk about. What I don't think we talk enough about, and where I think that's how we're going to build for the future, at least with Ergo, is like the vision, right? The culture, the principles. What are we not willing to sacrifice to get to where we want to go? And I think Ergo is one of the, if not only, but one of the few cryptocurrency blockchains that actually talks about this. And if you haven't already, definitely check out the Ergo manifesto. I highly recommend it to anyone. Even if you don't invest in Ergo, at least take a look at it.
We'll be sure to get that link in the description of this video. Are you looking to partner with an AI platform like Singularity.net?
Yeah, haven't done too much research about it. I've heard about them, on Twitter once in a while, but it is not out of the question of working with other projects to better incorporate what we're trying to do.
Cool. What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far with this project?
Yeah, I think it's going to be communicating and distilling our vision and product down into something that is easily digestible. And what I mean by that, it's not as sexy as like a decentralized exchange or a game or a blockchain game or anything like that, right? So I would say my biggest learning is how do I take the vision, the product, and the project that we have in mind, and making it into a format that other people will make sense and understand and see the value of it. So that's a great question.
Lead developer for Azorus, the UTXO blockchain intelligence platform, Chris, thank you so much for the interview, and we'd love to touch base again in a few months for an update on the project.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, James.
The Ergo Explorer is great for a variety of scenarios. However, it does have some drawbacks. It uses a REST API, which means there are only predetermined requests dApps and wallets can make. For example, if an app wanted to list your tokens along with their metadata, it would first have to query the API for a list of your tokens and wait for the response. Then it would have to make an individual request for each token, one by one, waiting for each response. This is because in a REST API, all the requests are pre-programmed. It can't scale or adjust to the demands of users. Enter Ergo GraphQL, a new project from the developers of the Nautilus Ergo Wallet. It aims to be a well-documented, efficient graph query language server built on top of the current Explorer's database model. It's built using TypeScript, unlike the Ergo Explorer, which is built on Scala. Now, using TypeScript instead of Scala is like using English instead of Icelandic. It's not necessarily better, there's just way more people who know the language, making it easier for developers to use the new platform for their specific needs. Imagine GraphQL as a highly customizable and cacheable alternative to the current Explorer API. And caching, by the way, really helps with performance. GraphQL also lets users generate custom queries, bypassing the need to follow the REST API preset structures. It lets you query anything you'd like on the blockchain in as much or as little detail as you need. Now, this is going to have profound implications for decentralized apps and wallets alike. For more information on the GraphQL project, check out the description of this newscast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for us today. We are super grateful you include Proof of Ergo in your cryptocurrency journey. And we look forward to bringing you more on the projects and news out of the Ergo ecosystem. A very special thanks to sponsors of the show, Ergopad, the first to bring second layer staking to the Ergo blockchain. You can find more on Ergopad and the projects launching through Ergopad on their website, ergopad.io. I'm James Kever. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next show.